teaching with them. All right, Susan, Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. I have my good friend and soul sister, Myrna Skoller from Boca Raton, Florida, speaking with me. I'm so happy. She is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, which is a wonderful companion to A Course in Miracles workbook for students. How are you today, Myrna?
Everything is very well, thank you. Thanks for asking. How are you, Susan?
I'm good. I'm good. The weather here in Massachusetts is 70, which is fabulous. I ran outside and I ran around the reservoir this morning. So that was really, really nice. I haven't been able to do that much over the past few months, but this morning it was a wonderful run.
I know
So,
you need to do that run. I know that. I know you talk about it, and you haven't been able to do it because of the bad weather. So now you're back into it. I say that's good.
yeah,
Me
yeah.
agree. Perfect for that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting back out there on a regular basis. So that was a good start to my morning. Um, I also meditated this morning for 30 minutes. So that was a good start to my morning as well. And I will start with the introduction of my book, as I like to do. What I write in Surrender to Joy is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. Surrender to the love that is within us, that cannot be found in the external world. So, I will start with today's lesson, which I started my day off with. Uh, and I say this quite often, but if you get to the crux, the core of any singular workbook lesson, I believe you really can get in touch with that Christ-like nature that resides within each and every one of us. That is what Jesus is teaching us to do. So, and thank you, Lynn, for emailing us these lessons each and every day. That is just so wonderful to wake up to that email. So today, I believe, I know I've set times I'm a day or two off, but this is lesson 90. And lesson 90 is the last review lesson. Um, Actually, the second to last. Myrna, are we on lesson 90 today?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I got that right. There is, I think there's one more. No, maybe not. So this is the last review lesson. And lesson 90 is a review of 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And, there is always the same problem. And the problem is something of the world that we feel needs to be changed in order for our internal peace to be reached. So the first line here states, let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. I mean, that basically says it all. The problems are of the ego. The ego always sees something in the world that is incorrect. The ego always sees something in the world that needs to be changed for me to be peaceful, and the way out of the problem is always forgiveness. The way out of the problem is to let go of the grievance, to let go of the resentment. And then the second half of lesson 90 is a review of lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. So the first line of this section says, I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and time must elapse before it can be worked out. I mean, we can release the problem right here, right now. We can forgive the grievance. We can release the grievance. We can release the resentment. It's simple. I believe the truth is very simple because only the love is real. It's just not easy because the world is based on the egoic thought system. The world teaches us to see guilt in our brother. When we start holding on to guilt, when we start projecting guilt onto our brother, we exacerbate that guilt within our own mind and within our own heart. So the problem is always a grievance, is what this lesson is teaching us. The problem is that I feel separated from God. I feel separated from source energy. I feel separated from my true self. And to release the grievance, to release the resentment, to forgive my brother and to forgive myself is to recognize my problems have been solved. There are no problems, and again, I think this goes back to the core teaching on forgiveness. I was actually listening to a YouTube video by Robert Perry and his wife, Emily, on forgiveness today. And they spoke about how important it is to forgive. They started talking about the traditional religious definition of forgiveness. They started talking about how forgiveness is so important, but sometimes we need to set healthy boundaries for ourselves as well. I mean, a lot goes into forgiveness. It's simple, but it is not easy. I know for myself, there's one particular grievance that keeps popping into my mind. And there are times that I'm able to let it go. And there are other times that it just comes back, I believe that when we can surrender our egoic concerns to Jesus, to Christ, to the Holy Spirit, He can help us to heal. I love the fact that you have such a beautiful, close relationship with Jesus. Actually, my meditation this morning was just so fabulous. And I visualized Jesus holding out his hand to me and me walking alongside Jesus. That is a very powerful visualization to embody, to incorporate into my day, because Christ is always with us. The Holy Spirit is always with us. And whenever we surrender to his will, which is based on love, we can feel that peace in our heart. Any thoughts on that, Myrna?
Yes, yes. I'm going to use today's lesson as the subject for our talk because, what jumped out at me, as you said, the title of the lesson, it's a review lesson, but the title here is Let Me Recognize the Problem So It Can Be Solved. And what is the problem? The problem is always, the first sentence says it all. Let me realize today that the problem is always some sort of grievance that I would cherish. So I think that when we don't let go of a grievance, it somehow it seems we seem to be cherishing it for some reason. And in the second part of the lesson, the second title, which is a review of lesson 80, let me recognize my problems have been solved. So that immediately tells me that the problem and the problem and the cure for the problem happens simultaneously. So the problem is solved as soon as the grievance occurs. We don't realize that, but and as the Course in Miracles says, it's because we misuse our understanding of time, and that in reality, it doesn't seem to be reality because the ego would tell you that's insane. But the problem and the solution has occurred. And I have to tell you, relate something that happened this weekend. I'll try to make it short because to me, this really fits into today's lesson. Pat and I have tickets to the Wick Theater. The Wick Theater is a lovely, it's a small theater in Boca Raton, Florida, and we got subscription tickets to the plays that are wonderfully played, wonderfully performed by professional actors and actresses. And we've been going for 4 years, and we have the same seats. Okay, we get the same seats and it's we look forward to, and maybe once every 5 weeks they have a new show. Anyway, Saturday night was Camelot. I always loved that show. I wanted to see Camelot. I was excited about it. I know the music, and I was really looking forward to it. We get to the theater, and I experienced a stomach ache, okay, before going into the theater. This was in the lobby. Now, it was a bad stomach ache. What do I do? Do I go into the theater with a stomach ache, and I really wanted to see the play. Now I know that this particular stomach ache goes away if I can just stretch out. If I stretch out, for a few minutes, it alleviates. It goes away. So I stretched out. It was sort of healing a little bit, but the show was starting. Pat says you can't go in feeling that way. Let's all miss the first act. But I really didn't want to miss the first act. So, I said, I'm going to go in and just trust that it's going to be okay. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I kind of just decided to trust. I said, I don't want to miss the first act. So I went into the theater. I sat down. And now, interestingly, I had an aisle seat. I always had this aisle seat. For 4 years, I've had this aisle seat. And lo and behold, I was able to now lie down, lean back, and kind of stretch my legs out, okay, into the aisle. When the show began, the theater darkened, and the stomach ache went away because I was able to kind of stretch. I don't know whether it's because of gas or whatever that causes the stomach ache, and the stretching does cure the problem. But interestingly, what I said to Pat was, you know what? Even though we've had these seats for 4 years, I believe that I was always meant to have that aisle seat for this reason alone. I love the show. I enjoyed it. I trusted. And I just kind of makes me see more and more that the problem and the answer does happen simultaneously. I think that my choice to trust from a place of faith resolved the issue, and I experienced healing and joy as a result. Surrender to joy, as you say. And so this was really a demonstration of how willingness can bring about a solution. Willingness to trust can bring about the solution. And I think lesson 90 focuses on the idea that acknowledging that a problem, recognizing that there's a problem, it's the first step towards finding a solution. And that we often remain stuck in our difficulties because we fail to truly, really identify what the real problem is. The only real problem we ever really face is our separation from peace. As you said, from peace, from love, from God, and all other issues are just reflections of this underlying issue. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that example that you gave, and the fact that you trusted that your stomach ache would heal itself. That's a beautiful, beautiful example. I think that when, everything is energetic. So when we start stressing out about something, let's say if you had gone, into the ego, your stomach was hurting, and then you started like stressing out about it, and you went further into the ego, it probably the stomach ache would have been gotten worse. I know that's happened to me before, but you chose to let it go. You chose to go into compassion and love. And basically, when we go there, the energetic frequency that we vibrate to raises itself, and the body heals itself because you're vibrating at a higher energetic frequency. That's a beautiful story, um, I went into your book, Myrna, Private Lessons with Jesus. We decided we are going to focus upon lesson 90. And I love what you or Jesus wrote through you about lesson 80. I mean, it's both 79 and 80 reviews are beautiful. Um, I mean, in lesson 79, to go into your book, you wrote, or Jesus wrote through you, when you hold on to a grievance, the problem you are faced with has not yet been solved because it still lays heavily upon you. So that's the problem. The problem is a grievance. The problem is a resentment. The problem is there is someone who the ego does not want to forgive. And I know that Susan, my ego definitely has a person that is very, very difficult for me to forgive. And then part two of lesson 90, which is a review of lesson 80, let me recognize my problems have been solved. I love what you wrote here, Myrna. You wrote, Jesus wrote through you, let me remind you that the power of the universe and all that is are interconnected. So actually, all problems must also be interconnected, although they appear different in content. That is so brilliant, Myrna. Because the universe operates in perfect synchronization with consciousness, so must you as well. As you raise your consciousness higher, you are also connecting to higher realms of understanding and thought. If all souls are joined, do you not understand that all problems have already been solved because there is only perfection in all? Because you live in a world of time and because you see yourself separate from your brothers and sisters, it would also seem that your problems differ. That is why it is so important that you see your brother/sister as yourself, although not in the sense that you must carry the weight of their worries on your shoulders. But if you can see your brothers and sisters as yourself, you can better understand that they are you. This you do not yet fully understand, but it is something you must recognize as true. Whatever problem is causing you distress, given over to God, you can be sure that it is solved. I just think that is so brilliant. That is so brilliant what you channeled in that section. I mean, the whole book is brilliant, but that really hit home because all the problems are the same. When I see a problem, I am vibrating at a lower energetic frequency. My energy is dense. My ego is in control. But when I can see that there is no problem, when I can forgive my brother, when I can forgive myself, when I can see that my brother is a part of me who needs my forgiveness, then I can just kind of elevate my frequency, my energetic frequency, and get beyond the problem to the truth of who I am. There's so many different, I guess, analogies that I could make. Um, the Wizard of Oz, I speak about that quite often. Dorothy thinks that she has to find her way home. She thinks that she has to find the wizard so he can give her directions on how to get home. She thinks that she is trying to escape from the wicked witch of the West, But the truth is, none of this is real. The truth is, she has the power to go home whenever she wants. All she has to do is click her shoes together 3 times, and then she will just wake up with her aunt and her uncles just loving her like crazy. And the same thing is true with all of us. We think that we have to escape, you know, we think that we have to find our way home. But the truth is, the only thing we need to do is to surrender to the truth of who we are. For me, it's really about forgiving a family member who appears to be treating me unfairly. And the unforgiveness that I hold towards her goes very deep within my own psyche. But the answer is forgiveness towards her and towards myself. And sometimes I can feel that forgiveness. Sometimes I can let go of that grievance. Sometimes I feel like my energetic frequency is able to raise itself, like in this morning's meditation, when I'm reading over today's lesson. And then other times it just comes back. But the truth is, I think, A Course in Miracles, it's a book in mental discipline. It's a training in mind control. When I can feel myself focusing on love, focusing on forgiveness, I can feel peace in my heart, And when the resentment comes back, then it doesn't feel so good. But when I can align my mind with the thoughts of God, with the thoughts of love, I can feel the truth of who I am, and I can feel the Holy Spirit guide me, because the Holy Spirit is guiding me throughout the day. So it's really up to me to release resentments, to release unforgiveness, to release lower level energy so I can hear what the Holy Spirit is saying to me. And there is just so much love available to all of us at each and every moment. So A Course in Miracles is telling us to open our hearts to accept God's love. A Course in Miracles is telling us that God needs us as much as we need him. A Course in Miracles is telling us that we did not create ourselves. We were created in God's image. God exists in a state of unconditional love. So when we can tap into that energy, we can feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness that is ours to share. Right? Right, Myrna?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing my attention to my own book, because I had kind of, I put it aside, and sometimes I really don't go into it at all. And the very last sentence, and I really appreciate that, Susan, really, because it says the last sentence that you read, I believe you read this sentence: whatever problem is causing you distress, given over to God, you can be sure that it is solved. So that really related to what I was referring to, that story that I told about how I decided just trust and just know that I'm not meant to suffer with a discomfort in a theater where I wanted to really enjoy the show that I had been looking forward to. And I guess it works with all things. It's just a matter of, like you say, just surrendering. And I also like that you use Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz often, because it does explain so much. I think this movie was or the story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz was so before its time because there's so much truth to it. And she had, like you say, she ultimately gets home because she discovers that the power to return home was within her all along. She didn't have to do anything. She just had to realize that she had to stop seeking for other reasons or other ways to find her way. She just fondly surrendered, as you say, surrendered to joy. To joy. So in trusting herself, she surrendered to that faith. And I love that. I like that, that all comes together. It all ties in. So, by believing in the guidance that we receive and letting go of doubts, we're able to find our way home always. And this illustrates how faith and surrender can lead to resolution, much like the lesson described, the lesson that we were talking about. And so it's really so much of a becoming aware of what we really need to do to understand that we really don't have problems because the problem has already been solved. And you also talked about watching YouTube. I wanted to mention one other thing. Earlier, I watch YouTube too in the morning, and I like to. Jesus sort of comes on and speaks through this, and I really it comes through to me in a meditational way as well. And one of the things that stuck with me is that our problems are solved long before we even identify the problem. So many problems that we could have had, we didn't because the problem had been solved before we even identified what it was. That I like that. That thought stuck with me. And it really is, we have to keep telling ourselves there's nobody to blame for our feelings of resentment or feelings of that we're being victimized in any way. No, that's not the case at all. We just have to open the door to healing and to stop projecting blame and looking. We have to look within, really, where the answer is always there. We just look within, and we look within and truly trust in the knowing that becomes available if we do decide to sort of practice this type of healing. It's always there. We just it just shows us the root cause, and the problem and the answer come together, I guess, in our minds. The problem and the answer is there already. So, thoughts about that, Susan?
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely true. We think that there is something in the world that we need to sort out. We think there is something in the world that we need to change. And I can remember numerous times when I have been so upset about something that is happening in the world, and I keep trying to fix my external worlds. I keep analyzing the problem. I keep focusing on the problem. But then when I just stop and I go within and I find that peace within, then I'm not so attached to the outcome, and ultimately the problem resolves itself. Like I don't care that much about this external thing anymore because I realize that the external thing cannot make me happy. So I kind of go within, I find that peace within, and then I don't care as much about the external thing, and the external thing just resolves itself. Why? Because, I mean, this goes back to the great analogy that we are the projector. We are creating our own life. So when we find that peace, love, joy, and happiness within, our energetic vibration raises itself, and the external world heals itself because we are projecting love instead of fear. you know it's just amazing how life works. It's amazing to realize that everything written in A Course in Miracles is actually true. It's such a beautiful truth. I went to ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT about the spiritual lessons of the Wizard of Oz. And you're right, Myrna. The Wizard of Oz was way before its time. There's so many, many spiritual lessons in the Wizard of Oz. So what I get from ChatGPT here, the key spiritual themes of the Wizard of Oz, you already have what you seek. I mean, that is just so amazingly deep and profound. These things that I think I'm going to find in the world are not in the world. They are within me. God gave everyone everything when they were born. There is no lack. So, here we have the scarecrow wants a brain, the Tin Man wants a heart, the Cowardly Lion wants courage. But throughout the journey, they demonstrate these very qualities. What you're searching for externally already exists within you. I mean, that's such a beautiful, beautiful lesson. And once we realize that we have everything that we seek in the external world within us, we no longer come from a place of lack. We come from a place of abundance. There is nothing that we want. The only thing that we desire is to share who we are with our brother. We don't want anything from our brother. We simply want to extend our love to our brother. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us, is a Christ-like mindset. And then another lesson of the Wizard of Oz is the illusion of external authority. The wizard appears powerful and all-knowing, but turns out to be just an ordinary man behind a curtain, and then it says that this reflects a spiritual truth. We often give our power away. We need to realize that real wisdom comes from within. I love that about A Course in Miracles also, because A Course in Miracles' goal is to lead us to our own internal teacher. It says that in the beginning of A Course in Miracles, that the goal of A Course in Miracles is to lead us to our own internal teacher, because we all have the answers within, and that's true about A Course in Miracles, much more so than the traditional religion in which I was raised. In traditional religion, it teaches us that, the priests, the pastors know more than us. Traditional religion teaches us that all the answers are in the Bible. A Course in Miracles says its goal is to connect us with our own internal teacher, because we all have the answers within us. And that is just so true. And when I can feel my connection with source energy, there is such an abundant, peaceful mindset that I connect to. And it's just so lovely, so beautiful. I'll go through the rest of the synopsis of The Wizard of Oz a little faster. The number 3 lesson is there's no place like home. Dorothy's longing to return home represents a deeper spiritual idea. Home isn't just a place, it's a state of inner peace, authenticity, and belonging with yourself. Next is you have the power all along. Dorothy had the ability to return home from the very beginning through the ruby slippers. I love that idea. You know, she's running all over Oz to find the wizard, to kill the witch, you know, to understand, you know, how she's going to get back home, but she didn't need to do any of that. All she had to do was click her ruby red slippers together 3 times, you know, because she was already home. We are all already home. We just need to be still and remember that. Be still and know that you are God, you know, so there's nothing we need to find, there's nothing we need to do. Um, and here it says at the very end of this little synopsis is the Wizard of Oz teaches that your true power, wisdom, love, and courage already exists within you. You just have to realize it, you know? And again, I mean, in my mind, that is the whole message of the course, you know? Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. We are the love that we seek. We just have to remember that we have everything that we desire within our own heart. God gave us everything when He created us. So it's just such a very simple truth. We need to remember that power of love that we have access to at each and every moment. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yes, you know, I like that you use the Wizard of Oz because Dorothy, yes, she always had the power to go home. And the magic really was with her all along. So I think the ruby slippers somehow symbolize this inner power. And later, if you remember, Glinda the Good Witch reveals that Dorothy simply needed to tap into her own belief and intention, her own belief and intention to return home. She must somehow it tells her that. And the symbol of the slippers was just to reinforce that idea. And I think this idea kind of echoes maybe the spiritual concepts that we discussed before, you know, suggesting that true guidance and the answers reside within us. And by recognizing this ability, we can overcome obstacles, any obstacles, but we have to recognize that we have the power and that we do have the ability to find our way home. And that's what we talk about surrendering to peace, to joy. I mean, by surrendering to faith, I call it faith and trust. And the Course in Miracles tells us a lot about that as well. So by surrendering in that respect, we drive home the fact that we have enormous powers, innumerable power to create what we can't even begin to understand. And I think the more that we trust, the more that we go within and recognize that, the more we see the result of that. And then the Course will give us the miracles that come from that. And the miracles is this wonderful change in perception from fear to love, from and so forth, really, because you're either in fear or you're in love, really. Fear is one aspect of what we experience, and the other is love. And anything other than that feeling of love, if we're not feeling peace, then we're not feeling love. And so this concept does explain how our mindset and our awareness affect our experiences and our outcomes in life, in everyday life, you know. So, according to a Course, our own internal teacher, what's our own internal teacher is the Holy Spirit. And that the Holy Spirit resides in each and every one of us. And it serves as a constant guide, and it reminds us constantly of our own nature uh, that helps us interpret situations from a perspective of love rather than fear. So I like to rely on my inner teacher, leading us back to peace and understanding. And that's the truth. The Course in Miracles is strictly truth, right, Susan?
Right, Myrna. Right, Myrna. Yeah, I'm going through the course right now, and I have so many paragraphs highlighted here in the preface, which is what we're speaking about now. It talks about how the course guides us to our own internal teacher. So it says here in the preface, the course makes no claim to finality, nor are the workbook lessons intended to bring the student's learning to completion. At the end, the reader is left in the hands of his or her own internal teacher who will direct all subsequent learning as he sees fit. He with a capital H. While the course is comprehensive in scope, truth cannot be limited to any finite form, as it is clearly recognized in the statement at the end of the workbook. This course is a beginning, not an end. No more specific lessons are assigned, for there is no more need of them. Henceforth, hear but the voice for God. He will direct your efforts, telling you exactly what to do, how to direct your mind, and when to come when to come to him in silence, asking for his sure direction and his certain word. I mean, that's what I believe Jesus attained when he was here on earth. He attained direct connection with God because he released the blocks. I mean, that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. A Course in Miracles is teaching us to release our blocks so we can hear the guidance of our Creator. You know, we all have the voice for God within us. The reason that we can't hear him all the time is because we're blocking him. But again, the course it's a beginning, not an end. It's teaching us to recognize how dependent we are on God the Father at each and every moment, and he is always there for us. We are never alone. God is always there for us. We are a part of him. You know, we are a part of him. And then there is another sentence that I just found here. Oh, this is in chapter 11. God, it says here, God is as dependent on you as you are on him, because his autonomy encompasses yours and is therefore incomplete without it. So God is incomplete without me. God needs me as much as I need him. When I can recognize my complete dependence upon him, when I can align my mind with the mind of God, I can find my true power. My true power comes from unconditional love. My true power comes from surrendering my will with a small w to his will with a capital W. And it does require a discipline to attain that state. But it's the most empowering, beautiful state that exists. It's what everyone is craving, whether they realize it or not. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah. Well, Jesus presents it in the Course in Miracles. He teaches that love is our true nature, and it's only obscured by blocks. And what are the blocks? Fear, guilt, judgment, And so by lifting, and that's what the Course teaches us to do, to can't teach us love, but I think if we learn to lift those blocks, it preventing us from knowing our true nature, then we can find it. But we have to do it ourselves, just like Dorothy had to learn for herself how to get home. We have to learn this on our own. We have to learn this. But the Course is a wonderful roadmap, and it's a wonderful way of showing us that through forgiveness and open mindedness, we allow ourselves to become aware of love that is always present within. And this process, I think, enables us to experience much greater peace and connection and aligns us so much more closely with our own internal teacher. And the internal teacher, if we just learn to rely on that internal teacher, that's the voice within that speaks to us if we're willing to listen and trust it. And that's the inner guidance that we have to learn to rely on. And it's all about listening to the voice of truth and wisdom. The wisdom is within, really. And we're just tapping into it. And we're given the wherewithal to do so if we just slow down and learn to know, trust that it's there. Because I mean, I think I've been given every time I experience a miracle, I always say, now I'm never going to stop trusting, not trusting. I'm always going to trust, and I'm always going to rely on that trust. And then something happens, and then you kind of forget about that. And then, it just, I've had that happen so many times, and I have to laugh at it because it's okay. From now on, I'm going to be completely open to that wisdom and that the clarity and peace, that is within me until something happens that causes a shift, and we go back to the ego's fear of the problem, which the ego will tell us countless times that this is a problem and what are you going to do about it? And I go back to what happened Saturday night at the theater when I just really, I'm so glad that I just let it go. Um, you know, because on the other side of the spectrum, I could have said, oh my God, if I go into the theater I can't get out, they close the doors, what if I have a stomachache, I'm stuck in a little seat, why not? And it's a small theater, the seats are kind of, they're sort of pretty much clustered together. Anyway, God solved the problem for me. He gave me an aisle seat. I was able to stretch out and experience the healing. That I knew that would be okay. I knew that it would be okay, and I really entered that specific uh, so-called problem, understanding that it really wasn't going to be a problem, believing that it wasn't going to be a problem, and it wasn't. And I think that's what led me through it. So every time something happens, it gives me more reason to trust and to trust in my own inner resolve uh, that takes place. Susan?
Yeah, yeah. Let miracles replace all grievances. And that's what you did. You just kind of had a trigger, a stomach that wasn't perfect, and you just decided to trust and to release, and it healed. I mean, we are always given a choice, as I say, the Holy Spirit is on one shoulder, the ego is on the other. The Holy Spirit is real, the ego is an illusion. I just thought of something that I saw on the news that made me think of something that doesn't make sense to me, that has to do with God, that has to do with the Catholic Church. It was a story that I saw on the news, just the other day. And I guess the Catholic Church is bringing exorcisms back into its list of programs. You know, the Catholic Church, I guess, seems to believe that there is enough evil out there at the present time that exorcisms are needed to fight the evil. And I just thought of that from A Course in Miracles perspective, from A Course in Miracles perspective, from my own perspective, that makes no sense because the love is the only thing that is real. So when you think about an exorcism, what is the exorcism doing? The exorcism is attacking the evil. The exorcism is attacking the devil. Well, when we attack the ego, we give the ego power. When we attack evil, we give evil power. It just does nothing to eradicate evil. The only thing an exorcism would do is it would make the evil bigger, give attention to the evil. So, and this is a basic Catholic theme that I see. Because again, from A Course in Miracles perspective, there is nothing to attack. From A Course in Miracles perspective, we don't have to attack anything at all. It actually, when we attack something, we are giving that something strength. When we defend our position, we are like negating the power of love. The only thing we have to do is embrace the love. The only thing we need to do is honor the truth of who we are, because the only thing that's real is the love. You know, I mean, another example that I thought of, my husband and I on Sunday, we saw this new movie that is 95% Rotten Tomatoes. They gets a lot of good reviews. So we decided to give it a shot, even though we don't love science fiction. It was Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling. Now, I personally didn't love the movie because I'm not a big sci-fi fan, you know, but if you're looking for the love in the movie, I am probably going to give away the movie right now. But I mean, that basically Ryan Gosling finds this alien, you know, and even though the alien is completely different than, you know, a human, he's completely different body type, even though they have no way of communicating because the alien doesn't speak English, you know, and Ryan Gosling doesn't understand that the alien talk, you know, they bonded, you know, so that was, they bonded. What did they bond? They started caring, they started loving, there was compassion. And that was like a big theme of the movie, you know, and that's definitely a core Course in Miracles theme. You know, when we see someone else, we don't have to relate to them as form, right? So Ryan Gosling didn't have to relate to this alien creature as form because he was a completely different form. You know, he couldn't understand the words of the alien because the alien spoke in a completely different way. So they really had nothing in common, except as the movie went on, they found that they grew to love each other. And that is totally Course in Miracles. When we can see through the words, when we can see through the body, when we can see that what we do have in common with all of our brothers is the love, you know, that's where our peace lies. So on in that sense, even though I didn't love the movie, I thought that was a nice theme. Only the love is real. Any thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah, what is the name of the movie? I would probably like
Project Hail Mary. Project Hail
Project. I have
Mary.
to write that down. Project Hail Mary. That sounds good. You know, there was another movie with Amy Adams. I forgot the name of the movie. It might have been called Alien, where it's the same sort of thing. I watched that movie more than once. I'm sort of fascinated with that, where the alien comes to really comes to earth, and she's selected as a doctor who is a teacher of language, and they ask her to sort of, because she's a professor of language at a university, they sort of bring her to see if she can, try and figure out what their language is and so forth. I loved it, so I'm going to watch that movie. I mean, I think they're kind of fun, and who knows? Maybe there really are aliens. We just don't know that they're there. That's all. Anyway, that was kind of cute. But yeah, so the name was Project Hail Mary. Is that what you said? I have to write that
Yep,
down.
the name was Project Hail Mary.
Okay, and I love Ryan Gosling. I really do. I kind of think he's really great. You know. So where did you catch that? Oh, was that on Netflix?
No, at the theaters.
Oh, it's a theater. Oh, it's a theater.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was in the big theater. We paid for it.
okay, yeah. Oh, well, I don't think I can get Pat to go. He doesn't like those kinds of movies.
Oh,
Anyway, but yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, you talked about attack a little while ago. What is attack? Attack is an illusion, isn't it? Stemming from the belief in separation, and that's where it comes from. And we just perceive ourselves as separate from others, and we're more likely to see attack as justified. Well, if we don't, if we by seeing ourselves that way. And so we go back to the Course in Miracles, which emphasizes that all attack is just a call for love and a misunderstanding of our true nature. So we're encouraged to recognize that forgiveness can dissolve the illusion of attack. That works. And it must work because the Course in Miracles does impress upon us to take that viewpoint that forgiveness is the answer, really. And it's sort of when you can truly forgive, somehow the attack doesn't seem real anymore. And I believe it works. I really do. It just takes willingness, like anything else, right, Susan?
yeah, yeah. I mean, forgiveness is not needed in heaven because in heaven, we don't condemn, we don't judge. I mean, God does not need to forgive us because God has never condemned us. God has never judged us. The only thing God can do is love us. So I keep looking at the Course in Miracles text today. It's like when we can forgive our brother, we are forgiving ourselves. God has but one son, and we are all part of that sonship. So when we can forgive our brother and forgive ourselves, we can connect with our own innocence. I love that affirmation. I embody the essence of innocence. And here in chapter 3, I have highlighted and underlined and starred. Innocence is incapable of sacrificing anything because the innocent mind has everything and strives only to protect its wholeness. It cannot project. It's the ego that projects. It can only honor other minds because honor is the natural greeting of the truly loved to others who are like them. So it's all about connecting to our innocence. That's how we can feel the truth of who we are. And that's such a beautiful truth. So on that note, it is 2:30. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. Thank you. Thank you. I love you, Myrna. Thank you for being here with me today. And thank you, Lynn. And I believe that Sora is going to be here now. That's super exciting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you, Myrna. Wonderful sharing. And looks like you and Sora, it looks like all three of you kind of called each other up about outfits there because y'all kind of matched.